And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome. Welcome to another round of the Conscious Rasta Report here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livingintheblack.com. My name is Kidi Owadu, aka the Conscious Rasta. Sundays, I am joined by my colleagues, and we deal with a broad spectrum of activities related to Pan-African development. We deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives, entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Sunday. It is the 29th day of July, or the 27th day of July. Bear with me. The July 27th, 2025 in the global Western calendar, and the last days of 60 to 65 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we've realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the 7th millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livingintheblack.com. And I want to thank you all for tuning in today, bright and early to the show today. And I am expected to be joined any moment now by my colleagues here on LIB Radio, brothers Dwara and Baba Pianki, not Baba Pianki. Baba Junius are going to be joining me. Baba Pianki. I reached back into my memory for that one. Excuse me while I kiss the sky, said Jimi Hendrix. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. Nowadays, you got to watch saying that too fast, because it might sound like, excuse me while I kiss this guy. I'm just kidding with you all. I'm having a good time over here. It's been a great day. We had a guest here at the Health Wellness retreat here that we do. We're going to have another guest next week, and we're doing the best we can to do the best we can that we can to heal and transform our people, our community. So that's what we are all about over here. I do see in the house Stray Godzilla. I moved to North Carolina, 8.5 butter in LA, and no one saw a problem with that. 8.5 butter. I'm sorry, I don't understand what 8.5 butter in LA means. You may want to explain that. He says, Kidi, capital K. And I appreciate you, Stray Godzilla, for being in the house today. And moving to North Carolina, that's nice. 8.5 butter in LA. I don't get what you mean by there. Explain yourself. Explain yourself, young man. For Africa One, I see you in the house today. It is always a pleasure to be with you, beloved. She says, Hotep, Mastermind Panel, and Global LIB family. What a joy. What a joy it is to be with you. We got a good sized audience today. I'm waiting to see if I will be joined by Junius and or Dwara. I can't recall. I think Junius did tell us he was not going to be able to be with us this week, but I could be wrong about that. But let me pull up what I have on the table. He says $8.50 for butter. Oh, the cost of living. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right, Stray Godzilla. And now that you are in North Carolina, hopefully you will be able to grow your food more conveniently. Of course, this is late in the season, but you can get in a crop yet this year. And hopefully you will have some space for that in North Carolina. I wish you all the best on your move. Congratulations on escape from LA. He said, yes, sir. So let me tell you what some of the stories that I have on my agenda that I wanted to bring up today. And there are a lot of them. This first story, and I hope we're joined by one of our voices here ASAP as soon as possible. I do believe I sent them the link for today, And let me just double check. The link for today comes up, the Mastermind Connection. And that is the connection right there. For Sunday, I said July 29th, but it should read July 20th. So this double checking and is entering the studio. So it looks like it is going to be good. And I should be joined any second by my co-hosts on the Falcon Forum, on the Mastermind, and we will be live and direct. The first story I see coming up, he says, it's the 27th. Sorry about that, Brother Juma. My eyes were squinting this morning, and I said the 27th. So yes, we are live. We are live and direct for July 27th. So, and I do see Osei Kamal is in the house. He says, greetings, Brother Keaty. So we have you all in the house. One more. This is Brother Daoudi. Greetings, Brother Keaty and LIB family. This is Daoudi Mahali in Ghana, Respect. So great to have you with us, Brother Moja 2010 or 22, 21 210. Moja 210, aka Daoudi Muhammad. Now, here's what I have on the table today. This first story is kind of shocking. The new male contraceptive shaking up conversations in Africa. Experts are optimistic about a new male contraceptive, especially in Africa, where family planning remains largely centered on women. The innovation, called ADAM, is a water-soluble hydrogel injection effective for up to 2 years. Now, this was the first time I'd ever heard about a male contraceptive, and I checked it out. It is made in the United States, and it appears to be used on Africans experimentally. Now, are we down with that? Is anybody out there approve of that? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Here's what they said. This is entitled Africa, a shot that would stop sperms for 24 months. Written by Priscilla Makayenze from All Africa, dated July 25, 2025. So just been announced and released, but it's been around for a couple of years. And I'm going to put up this link to this story today, and hopefully we will get some response about this article. I'm going to post it up on YouTube, post it up on the Rumble channel. And Brother Juma says, hell no. Baba Junius did say he would not be here today. I think I do recall that. You got a good memory for Africa One. And Baba Junius, hopefully Brother Duwaro will be joining us any second now. And here is the story that I was alluding to. I'm going to paste it up on my Facebook page as well. And here's what this story has to say. Kampala from the Now Post, written by Priscilla Nakayenze. A new male contraceptive is shaking up global conversations around reproductive health, and its potential could be felt in Uganda, where family planning remains largely centered on women. The innovation, called Adam, and use of this biblical, mythological Adam as a name for this is very, very sinister, because unfortunately, our African family is predominantly Western Christianized, and they're kind of naive in that. I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. They're not really sophisticated at that. I'm just going to kind of leave it there. A new male contraceptive called Adam is a water-soluble hydrogel injected into the sperm ducts, temporarily blocking sperm from mixing with semen and offering a new level of control for men. While researchers are now exploring options for shorter term versions, including a potential 24-hour sperm blocking shot, the current Adam implant lasts up to 2 years. Developed by the US based biotech company Contraline, the contraceptive is being hailed as a reversible alternative to condoms and vasectomy, which are currently the only mainstream methods available to men. Yes, developed in the United States. Probably, I can only imagine, I'm assuming that it probably is supported by Bill Gates, who has spent a lot of money, including up to 200 billions he's pledged to spend on Africa. Except we know that among Bill Gates's highest priorities is keeping babies off of the planet, in particular, not keeping Korean babies, South Korean babies, Japanese babies, Chinese babies. No. Bill Gates is not interested in keeping European or Euro-American babies off the planet. No. The place where not all the babies, but most all of the babies are being born is Africa, India, Bangladesh, and other places where the global south is represented. And we do know that the highest fertility on the planet is Africa. And so when we're looking at Uganda, Uganda is number 2 on the planet. Number 1, Niger, is off limits to Bill Gates, off limits to the West because of the excesses of France and the United States in their so-called war on terror. They got banished. I suggest that Bill Gates, in my humble opinion, represents the new face of the U.S. so-called war on terror, the terror of the unborn. What do you think? Do you disagree with me? I would love to hear from you. Or do you agree? The terror of the unwanted African baby is really what is fueling Bill Gates's desires, according to my humble opinion. So let's keep going forward. Let's look further into this. I have one more article on this very topic that I have pulled up for today. And I do see a few comments have come in. Is your broadcast for the 29th? I answered that. Greetings, Brother Keaty from Osei Kamau. We are live and direct. I wrote that. Baba Junius did say he would not be here today. Let me catch up with myself. Juma says, don't trust it. Hell no. And I put up the link to the shot is Africa, a shot that will stop sperms for 24 months by Priscilla Mackenzie Maya Maka Yenze from allafrica.com. Queen Mother Kashiva is in the house. She says, Hotep family. Nguvu is in the house. Sawagona, he says. Greetings to you, Nguvu. For Africa and One writes, I suspect and hope this will be largely rejected by African men and women, like the male contraceptive trialed in the 1970s or 1980s in Europe. It will be largely rejected by African men, but the Europeans know. If they place it into the marketplace, it may have 5%, 10% acceptance in the first year or two. But the longer it stays in the marketplace in Africa, the more will be accepted. And I suspect, this is merely a hypothesis on my part, I suspect that the reversibility of it will ultimately start to fail. That the the 2 year, 24-month potential of this will be extended. This is a hydrogel, a water-based gel, and it's just that simple to just switch it for a permanent link that would block it. So I don't think it's good at all. For Africa One wrote that Ruto of Kenya brought Gates into Africa. Go figure, says Queen Mother Kashiba. And you're all right. I've got William Ruto up on my schedule for today because William Ruto, according to my now switched opinion, William Ruto is very bad for Africa's ongoing development, for Kenya's development. I changed my attitude midstream, and I had to admit that William Ruto's policies are a disaster. I'm not going to cuss today, but I contend his policies have changed, and he is a disaster. I'm in contact with people almost every day in Kenya, and life has become so disrupted for them now. And the fact of the matter is, the Kenyan police are shooting Kenyan youth dead, Gen Zs. That should never, ever, ever be taking place. We're going to pick that up in a little bit later. Ruto of Kenya brought Gates into Africa. Go figure. Yes, he did. He opened the door to come on into East Africa. Yoweri Museveni appears to be cooperating with this. Although they don't have hard evidence, it appears that Yoweri Museveni is cooperating with this. I'm going to go back to the stories that I pulled up today from Africa. Trial data looks promising for, quote, IUD for men, unquote. Written by Katie Adams, not an African name, from Med City News, January 4th, 2024. So these trials in Africa have been ongoing for at least a year and a half. Let me put up the link to this article so you can have access to it as well. I'm going to put it up on here, and I see Stray Godzilla is in the house. He says, don't play with your nads. Yeah, me not play with my nads, man. I do completely agree. Post this link up here on the Rumble. And this one, before I go into it, Queen Mother Kashiba, is it a contraceptive or a thing that will eventually give birth to birth defects in live births? From my understanding, from what's been reported, it is a contraceptive that blocks the passage of sperm cells through the vas deferens into the well that then injects the sperm cells during ejaculation into a woman's womb. So this is like an IUD. It blocks the sperm from getting out and getting in contact with the eggs that the woman would have. So that's how it works. Let me show you what this next article has to say. Contraline released promising data from the clinical trial it is conducting to test the efficacy of Adam, its male birth control product. The non-hormonal gel seems to be doing a good job of blocking the flow of sperm to the vas deferens, and no serious adverse events have been reported. What are the non-serious adverse events that have been reported? That is a critical question. I'm going to ask that question real quickly. I have an AI search engine. Speaking of Adam by Contraline, what side effects have been reported? And I'll have that answer here in just a second. Okay. Commonly observed side effects. No, this is going forward. Here, the clinical trial findings in a 90-day safety analysis of 25 participants, no procedural adverse events were reported. 76 adverse events were recorded. 84.2% were mild, 14.5% were moderate, and 1.3% were severe. The only serious case was colitis, secondary to a dental infection, deemed unrelated to Adam or the procedure. The most side effects occurred within the first 14 days and were consistent with standard recovery from a no scalpel vasectomy approach. Commonly observed side effects: local discomfort or swelling, bruising or tenderness, temporary changes in ejaculation sensation. These are typical of procedures involving the vas deferens, and none were considered unexpected or long lasting. The long term safety at 24 months, no new or unexpected safety concerns were reported. Participants showed sustained contraceptive efficacy with azoospermia, no sperm in the ejaculate in some cases. The hydrogel is designed to liquefy and clear naturally after its lifespan, making it reversible. Adam is still in clinical trials, and while early results are encouraging, broader studies are needed to confirm long-term safety and reversibility. So, other male contraceptives it says to compare to are Vasagel or Vasil gel or Risug, Risug. I don't know anything about those, but I will look this up a little bit later. So going back a little over, this is the same article I was reading. Trial data looks promising for IUD for men, written by Katie Adams from Med City News. A little over a year ago, a medical device startup, Contraline, made headlines for becoming the first company to implant a male contraceptive gel into humans in a clinical trial. Fast forward to now, and the non-hormonal hydrogel has been implanted into the vas deferens of more than 20 men, and the trial data looks good. Now, again, this article is January of 2024, so it's been more than 20 men. The AI search mentioned at least 25 men. On Thursday, Virginia-based Contraline released a promising report from the clinical trial it's conducting to test the efficacy of Adam, its male birth control product. The hydrogel seems to be doing a good job of blocking the flow of sperm to the vas deferens, and no serious adverse events have been reported. Doctors have now implanted the hydrogel into 23 men. Next month, after 2 more men undergo the procedure, Contraline's first in-human efficacy trial will reach its full enrollment of 25 patients. The trial is being conducted across 3 medical centers in Australia. We might ask the question of those 3 medical centers in Australia: where are they located? Are they located generally among the black fellows, the indigenous Aboriginal population of Australia? We do know the history of such racist trials taking place in Australia. No doubt, Australia wiped out the Tasmanian people. Down to the last person, wiped out, gone. Australia has also had a long record of inhumane treatment of the black fellows. So I'm only speculating here. I'm asking the question, where will these trials of Contralene's Adam be taking place? Let me see if any of you want to weigh in on this. The in Google says don't mess with the DNA. Short-term goals can lead to long-term effects. I critically do agree with you, completely agree with you in Google. Queen Mother Kashiba. Also, there is still a rumor that the evil UN is moving to Africa. I've never heard that. That is according to blogger Abigail Lucy Mary. The evil UN is moving to Africa. Now, we do know the UN has a significant presence in Africa as well as around the world. The UN headquarters is located in New York City. Moving it to Africa would be, in my mind, a disaster. Africa has the AU. Why not take the money it would take to move the UN to Africa and just use that to build up the African Union? African Union's budget, when I looked at it last, was about $681 or so, $681 million per year, where the European Union's annual budget for half the countries it services was 281 times larger than the African Union budget for twice as many countries, 681 times. So we do know the African Union is horribly underfinanced. Evil UN, I meant. Yes, you are right. Evil. Why is Africa always the guinea pig? I would say, Queen Mother, it's because of African leadership. How much did they pay those participants? Poor Africans. That's a good question, because people do get paid for allowing themselves to be a guinea pig, and people who get paid tend to be, of course, impoverished people who tend to also have the highest fertility, who tend, in this case, would tend to be the youngest and in the prime of their fertility. So you are right to ask that question. We can only speculate from this side. But I will say this much, and I say this with no ambiguity. No one I know of, no one that I know of, has done more research in this category of Africa's fertility, Africa's demographics, Africa's total fertility rate for women, African babies being born. I consider myself to be a global authority on this. Therefore, I want everybody to tune in to LIV Radio this week. I'm going to take this story on. We're going to look much, much deeper into the competition between the West and Africa for fertility. We'll look at the quote unquote clash of civilizations and the remaking of world order. And we will revisit Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's theory, the Cress theory of competitive reproduction. It's not what she called it. She called it something else, but I can't remember. But it basically comes down to competitive reproduction. And I'm going to pull out some of the books that I have in my collection. I have a lot of books, a whole shelf full of books. Some of the things that are written, such as the research, the reporting from a conference on overpopulation from Johannesburg, 1970, contain statements so shocking you may not believe it to be true. But we're going to show you it is true. There's a lot of disinformation and misinformation out here. Yes, there is, from our side as well as theirs. But we're going to put some meat on the bones of this depopulation issue and give you the real deal. If you want to arm yourself and you want to join this warrior team and be a fighter for continued African fertility, join us. Join me. Join us. And let's get this battle started. You, Brother Google says, we're always guinea pigs because we allow it. Can't argue with that. I wish I could argue with it, but I can't argue with that. You're right. We're here looking up. Stray Godzilla is in the house. He says side effects, maybe. Testing in Africa says a lot. Do they shoot you in the arm? Well, in this case, they shoot you with this one, not in the arm, but the needle goes into the vas deferens. Now, the question is how easy is it to access the interior of the vas deferens? You can actually find your vas deferens. It's the tiny tube that connects your testicles, your gonads, to a reservoir, and you can actually find it with your fingers. So I don't know if it's that dangerous a procedure. I'm going to have to look deeper into it. Good questions. Good questions. And then no, it is not a shot in the arm. It is a shot in your vas deferens. Going forward, next story I have up for today's study. This is an optimistic story. I like this story. The story headline, this comes to us from allafrica.com. Benin taps Spike Lee to help African Americans trace their roots. The story dated July 25, 2025 from allafrica.com. Here's what it has to say. Benin, West African country, has appointed American filmmaker Spike Lee and his wife, producer and author Tanya Lewis Lee, as ambassadors for African Americans in the U.S. Their role as thematic ambassadors aims to strengthen the ties between Benin and people of African descent, promote cultural tourism, and support initiatives reconnecting the African diaspora to their roots. Now, I gotta say, I have been to Benin, and Benin was a wonderful, wonderful trip with Africa for the Africans.org. We would travel to Africa, and Brother Bomani is still leading this group, and they still do travel to Africa quite frequently. So with Africa for the Africans, we went there to Benin in, I can't remember the year. It was around 2010, maybe 2009 or 2010. So we went to Togo, and then we went to Benin and spent 4 or 5 days there in Benin. And it was fantastic. It was awesome. So we got a chance to travel Benin and be welcomed there. We traveled in reverse around the tree that of return, and it was the door of the tree of no return before, but when you travel it in reverse direction, you are being welcomed back home. And there has been an invitation from Benin to the diaspora, the invitation for Haiti, for the Haitians to come, and they would be automatically granted Benin citizenship because of the commonality of their language, and an invitation for all Africans to return home to Benin. They do speak French there as their national language. And of course, that would be combined with the indigenous languages of the people of Benin. There is a lot of connection between Benin, the Yoruba, Voodoo, and a number of different things. It was an awesome, awesome, awesome trip. So Benin, the appointment was confirmed during the couple, Spike Lee and his wife, film producer Tanya Lewis Lee. The confirmed during the couple's visit to Cotonou last week. It follows Benin's recent efforts to encourage descendants of enslaved Africans to reclaim their heritage, including a new law offering nationality and a citizenship application website. Tanya Lee Lewis, who previously visited Benin and applied for citizenship, reportedly received a positive response. The initiative, inspired in part by Ghana's 2019 Year of Return campaign, was largely welcomed by locals. While many praised the move as a powerful cultural statement, some questioned why Benin-born actor Jiman Honsu was not chosen. Benin's coast, once part of the slave coast, was a key hub in the transatlantic slave trade, and the government hopes this initiative will both acknowledge that history and foster global cultural connections. So that is a very powerful story. Would love to hear your opinion about what you think about Benin reaching out. I see the Cannabis Connection is in the house. He says, good morning. Good Sunday morning, sir. Great to have you in the house. Good morning to everyone. Sending greetings out to everyone. And we are doing a coverage of Africa news here today as I am doing the mastermind with you. So I welcome you, our listening audience, to give us your input. We would love hearing from you today. Give us your input. What do you think? Has anyone else, other than myself, ever had a chance to visit Benin? At the time I visited Benin, my French was actually pretty good. I have not been practicing my French very much, so maintenant, mon français ne c'est pas très bien, mais after a few days, in a week or two of speaking French, I will have recovered it. So it's not so far gone. I want to hear what you have to say. We are live and direct. I still have the story up on the table. This is Benin, named Spike Lee and Tanya Lee Lewis, ambassadors to African Americans. And there's more to the story. Back to roots. Why African Americans are flocking to Ghana. That was another story. And we've engaged that story quite a bit. I really wanted to stay on this Benin story a little bit more. Do I have any more to it? It says Benin taps Spike Lee to help African Americans trace their roots. And no. So it goes on to the Ghana story for All Africa One, how Ghana went above and beyond for the Year of Return 2019. This is a very important story. Ghana is to launch a multi-billion-dollar fund aimed at attracting investment from members of the African diaspora in the United States and around the world. And I completely, wholeheartedly agree with that story. Let me put that story up for you to have access to it as well. How Ghana went above and beyond. Ghana is to launch, I read that up, in which the nation, Year of Return, in which the nation reached out to the diaspora on the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in the United States. But what was the Year of Return? How did it relate to Ghana's history of slavery? And what did it bring to the nation's economy and citizenry? So they're asking the question, how Ghana went above and beyond for the Year of Return. In a news conference earlier this month, Ken Ofori-Atta, the country's Minister of Finance, announced the African Sankova Savings Account, quote unquote, Africa Sankova Savings Account, which he said would enable both high and low income earners from the diaspora to invest in tourism infrastructure, agriculture value addition, real estate, music, culture, retirement homes, etc. The minister's announcement came in the wake of President Nana Akufo-Addo's launch in December of a new initiative named Beyond the Return, the Diaspora Dividend. The former President Akufo-Addo, said the rationale of Beyond the Return is to engage Africans in the diaspora and all persons of African descent more positively in areas such as trade and investment cooperation and skills and knowledge development. Quote, let us all remember that the destiny of all Black people, no matter where they are in the world, is bound up with Africa, unquote. The president added, we must help make Africa the take place. We must help Africa the place, help make Africa the place for investment, progress, and prosperity, and not a place from where our youth flee in the hope of accessing the mirage of a better life in Europe or the Americas. But what was the year of return? How did it relate to Ghana's history of slavery? And what did it bring to the nation's economy and citizenry? Remembering the transatlantic slave trade. Beginning in the 15th century, Portuguese ships transported captured Africans to the United States, which didn't exist, where they were sold or exchanged for valuable goods like cotton, coffee, or tea. Some 30,000 slaves from Ghana were sent to the Americas. It's probably an undercount by many fold, by maybe tenfold. Living conditions for slaves, for enslaved Africans who were transported, were brutal. They were chained and forced into the ship's confined holds without enough food and water. Sick or dying enslaved Africans were tossed overboard. Once in the Americas, most of the enslaved were sent to cotton and sugar cane plantations where they lived and worked, facing regular punishment and abuse, including being shackled, subjected to sexual exploitation by their owners, and branded with branding irons as if they were cattle to show who owned them. Others of the enslaved were forced to work in mines as dock workers or in slave owners' households. Portuguese merchants controlled most of the transatlantic slave for 150 years. Then the Dutch came to lead it by the 1600s. A century later, English and French merchants accounted for roughly half of the enslaved transported. The slave trade flourished for nearly 400 years, with an estimated 12 to 12.8 million Africans shipped across the Atlantic during the period. Accurate figures for the number of Africans and their descendants who were enslaved are unknown, although estimates put the total near 400 million people. Human beings, 400 million. What was the year of return? President Akufo-Addo has said that 75% of the slave dungeons built on the west coast of Africa and through which slaves were transported were located in Ghana. He designated 2019 as the year of return to mark 400 years since the first enslaved Africans arrived in the settlement of Jamestown, in which was, at the time, the English colony of Virginia in 1619. The United States was not constituted until 1776, when Virginia joined 12 other English colonies in declaring independence. And I will say that the first Africans did not arrive in 1619 in Jamestown. They arrived around, I think it was around 1560 to 1580 in Florida. This article mentions nothing about the Spanish. But the first enslaved Africans arrived in what was then part of Florida, a Spanish colony, but is today, like Virginia, a U.S. state. The first Africans arrived in Florida 80 something years before they arrived there. It was not 80 years, 60 to 80 years before they arrived in Virginia. So Jamestown, Virginia is a mythology. And I've been doing the best I can to get our people to get rid of the European narrative of our enslavement and tell the real narrative of our enslavement, because there's no doubt that you and I regard people of African descent living in the state of Florida as our family. There is an old Kenyan proverb that says, until the lion learns to write, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. We got to be able to tell our story with precision and accuracy and be able to stand up to anyone of any other ethnicity. We got to stand up to them and say, no, that is not true. Africans did not first arrive in what is today America in 1619. No, it's not true. And tell the story the right way. A few comments have come in. We were talking about fertility, etc. He said Bill Gates, Oprah comes to mind. Yes, she is on the same tag team with Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Ted Turner, not Elon Musk. Elon Musk is against population control, and but the other side, along with the World Health Organization and World Economic Forum. Birth control causes mental illness in those who take them. No, I don't know if that's true. He says this at Kashiba. Birth control causes mental illness in those who take them. I don't know that to be true. I've never, ever heard that to be true. I would say there could be some connection between birth control, population control, and mental illness. That's a whole nother conversation. But I don't know that to be true. Let's continue. What was the year of return? The Year of Return initiative included a massive marketing campaign targeting African Americans and the diaspora by advertising Ghana as a tourism destination with transatlantic trade appeal. President Akufo Addo has said the initiative attracted an additional 200,000 visitors during the year. He was quoted in Ghana Business News as saying that it also generated more than US $1.5 billion for the economy. The year-long enterprise included an investment conference targeting diaspora Ghanaians and encouraging African Americans to seek Ghanaian citizenship. Other activities was the Full Circle Festival, which saw the involvement of several globally renowned figures. Celebrities who visited Ghana included Naomi Campbell, the English model, actor, and businesswoman. And I think she was married to that guy. was not an African. Idris Elba, the actor, writer, and producer. Michael Jai White, the American actor, director, and martial artist. And Rosario Dawson, the American actor and singer. American rapper, songwriter, and television personality Cardi B also joined in the festivities, donning a bodysuit adorned with Ghana's national colors during a performance. I don't even want to see that. Cardi B, a bodysuit. I'm glad Cardi B had the opportunity to go home to the mother continent. I am just curious about what kind of values Cardi B is capable of projecting, what kind of cultural values Cardi B is capable of projecting into our people, our naive, relatively naive young population on the continent. You know what I'm saying, Queen Mother. Cardi B is not anything that I would encourage, although I do think that Cardi B visiting Ghana, spending money in Ghana, is a positive thing. Changes the, he says, we're talking about the statement by cannabis connoisseurs that birth control causes mental illness in those who take them, quote, changes the brain chemistry with all the synthetic ingredients in them. I've never seen that. I've never seen that. I have done extensive research. Now, we do understand the complexity of the endocrine system, very important. The hormones, very important. But I'd love to have a reference, if you could have a reference on that. What specific chemicals in the endocrine system would be changing, would be talking about this? And he does reference, he says, this is Dr. Barbara O'Neill talking about birth control and some of the issues. And Brother Juma is in the house. He says, quote, Cardi B is not even African. Now, I think she's Afro-Latina. I think. I could be incorrect there. I could be corrected. I think she's Afro-Latina, which would put her in the extended family. And I will classify Cardi B, if you would allow me, Brother Zuma, as the dysfunctional cousin. The dysfunctional cousin. And I've heard of Dr. Barbara O'Neill before, but in my mind, that name, Dr. Barbara O'Neill, does not necessarily have a lot of credibility. Now, I'm not going to play this. I just want to see her face, see if I remember this. And if it's coming up, fine. If it's not coming up, it's not coming up in real time. Here it's coming up real slow, but I don't know what you need to know when taking the pill. Yeah, I recognize Dr. Barbara O'Neill. I think that Barbara O'Neill could be listened to, but I don't give her a great deal of credibility. That's my own opinion. I recognize her. I've seen her videos, but normally when Dr. Barbara O'Neill comes up, I will not watch her videos in total. So that just kind of shows you how I have classified the research that she does. I'm not saying she's not telling the truth, but I am saying she does not offer up the kind of evidence that I like to use. I'm just going to leave it at that because this video is rather long and I don't necessarily want to go into that. We are live and direct. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you are in our listening audience today, your opinions matter. They do matter here on LIB Radio, and we offer this platform for you to share anything and everything you want to share. It is unfortunate that I am alone today, but we do the best we can with what has been served up for us. So, continuing, we got a good sized audience. And Google says African citizenship should be a badge of honor we all wear proudly. I completely do agree with you. I completely do agree with you, Brother Nguvu. And Juma did acknowledge Cardi B is an Afro, I think she is an Afro Latina, which would classify her as a dysfunctional cousin. And let's keep going from there. We have more stories that I pulled up for today's conversation. And next, we're going to go to Kenya. Queen Mother Kashiba, I know you will appreciate this. This article from allafrica.com. Kenya, President Ruto hits out at Maraga over, quote, failed state, unquote, remarks. It's written by Fidel Kizito from All Africa News. I'm going to share the link with you right now. And here is what this story has to say. I'm going to post this up here. And Stray Godzilla did comments. He says, makes sense if hormones are affected. And yes, you're right. Hormones do definitely affect our mental state. So when the statement came up from cannabis connoisseur that changes the brain chemistry with all the synthetic ingredients in them, I can't disagree with that. I'm just go forward. No need getting hung up on difference between myself and Dr. Barbara O'Neill. I will say though that I was trained by Elizabeth Leah Gonsalvo, a woman who has much more credibility in my mind about these issues of African fertility control, birth control, the search for contraceptive vaccine, the irreversibility of it, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to do the best we can with what we have in our hands. What's in your hands? What do you have? If your research is good, share it. If it can be better, accept that others can input as well. And I do accept the research that you are putting forward. I will check out that video from Dr. Barbara O'Neill a little bit later when I have time to go through the whole thing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So next we have up on the story, Kenya, President Ruto hits out at Maraga over, quote, failed state remarks. And I'm going to put this up one more time. And I'm going to put this up over here on my Facebook page. It goes up in here one time. Boom. Also going to share this here on Facebook. And that is right here. And here's what this article has to say. Where is it? Let's go into my notes. Nairobi. President William Ruto has hit out at former Chief Justice David Maraga for describing Kenya as a, quote, failed state, unquote. Speaking to the Talanta bell ringing at the Nairobi Securities Exchange Commission, the head of state asserted that with such a viewpoint, Maraga cannot be trusted to lead a country he does not even believe in. Quote, I listen to a lot of what people say about our country. I listened to one gentleman who retired the other day after working for 50 years, and he wants to be president. I listened to him say Kenya is a failed state. I asked myself, if he has been working in a failed state for 40 years, he said, quote, you want to trust us, you want us to trust you. to be the leadership of a country you do not believe in and to a people you don't believe in. There's a side story here. Kenya and Nyeri traders unite to protect the property after massive looting during protests. Now, part of the reason this caught my eye is because I have long kept my eye on Nyeri. A few years ago, you can recall, if you've been listening to LIB Radio over the past 4 years, in 2022, you and we went to Nyeri and we supported the school there. It was the Green Gate Private Academy School. And we made a donation of a laptop and other donations of critical supplies to Nyeri School. And we also donated capital to support them. So I have a direct connection with Nyeri. I stayed there 2-3 days, had a most wonderful time. And we are in Nyeri. So when I see that the protests in Nyeri have turned violent, and that the goons, they said, I have the story here. Let me see if I can pull it up. They said that the goons came in after the protest started. Here it is. Kenya and Nyeri traders unite to protect property after massive looting during protests. In Nyeri, the business community in Nyeri town has vowed to pool their resources to protect their properties following massive looting and destruction of premises during the youth-led June 25 and July 7 protests, which the government says were infiltrated by goons. Speaking during a meeting at Kamukunji grounds in Nyeri town, the business leaders said they would collaborate with security officers to create a protective security ring around their businesses and ensure that criminals were contained. We are not opposed to demonstrations in this town. We know that Kenyans have a constitutional right to protest. However, we have observed that while Gen Z protests in the morning are peaceful, criminals take over after they leave and begin looting. That is what we need to address, said Ibrahim Ndegwa, chairman of the Nyeri Business Council. During the July 7 protests, businesses in Nyeri County bore the brunt of looters, with several shops and supermarkets being cleaned out. Naivas supermarket in Nyeri town was raided, with property worth over Kenya shillings 130 million stolen. Nearby shops were also looted. Ndegwa, who also serves as the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the KCCI, emphasized that those enlisted to help secure businesses would not be malicious, but vetted individuals known to security agencies. Quote, "We are not forming militias to protect our properties. In fact, we will only enlist individuals who have passed security checks and will work alongside the police to ensure we do not suffer further losses," said Ndegwa. Thuo Matenge, a local businessman, declared that business owners will no longer close shop due to protests. Quote, "We've had enough of criminals forcing us to shut down. We will organize an elaborate security cordon to ensure no one steals from us again," said Matenge. He also urged parents not to accept looted goods in their homes and to encourage their children to earn an honest living. Senior security officers who attended the meeting pledged their cooperation with the business community. So that is what's taking place in a relatively small town of Nyeri in Kenya. What do you think? And he said he encouraged parents to tell their teenage youth, their Gen Z youth, to earn an honest living. Well, that's the problem. It's because the way that the economy has been mishandled by top leadership, there are no jobs for young people in Kenya. What jobs are there, the youth are not skilled up to take advantage of. Why would not we from the diaspora go to Kenya and help to educate the young people to get employed in higher education? I am going to go to Kenya and I'm going to be working with the colleges and universities because I believe I have 5 critical skill sets for the future that we can push into the larger culture, into the education system. I bet you there's a lot of people out here who, like me, believe that your skill set is necessary for developing Africa's sovereignty, sustainability. I want all Africans to be as healthy as my health related knowledge and information is available. I want all African youth to have a chance to excel in the fields of artificial intelligence. And there is a lot to learn with artificial intelligence. Most of us are just using artificial intelligence as a search engine. And I will admit guilt of that. But now I have begun studying and I see that it is much, much more and can be used as much more than just the most advanced search engine. Few comments have come in. For Africa One, we need to change the language from slave trade to human trafficking, enslaved to prisoners of war, plantations, to concentration camps. The war is economic, spiritual, physical, and psychological. And you're right. And she corrected that. Where is Nancy Turner Banks when you need her? Does she have an opinion on this topic of birth control? She is an OB/GYN doctor after all. Nancy Turner Banks. I think that's a very interesting question. Let me see if I can get a message to her in the background. I'm going to go over here to, bear with me, WhatsApp. Give it to me, WhatsApp. Where you at? Over here. Meeting information on WhatsApp. I'm going to go to WhatsApp and see if I can get that message to her. Where we at? WhatsApp. Going in. Bear with me. This is worth waiting for. Log in. And I'm going to be patient while it loads up. And we're going to send a new message to, and it is taking its good old time. Here we go. New message to Nancy Turner Banks. And Nancy Turner Banks is not coming up. I'll be able to find her. I'll send her a old school email message. So once again, bear with me, Nancy Turner Banks, because I know we brought her up a few times in the last few weeks, and I do agree. We are overdue to hear from Nancy Turner Banks. Nancy Turner Banks is in my email. I'm pretty sure she's there. Come on. And Nancy Turner Banks. I don't see the email there. And bear with me because I used to speak with her quite a bit. She and I had wonderful, wonderful conversations. And she's not showing up here. So what I am going to do is I'm going to have to search for Dr. Nancy. What, how to contact. Where we at? I'll have to search for that in the background. So let me just push this up. Dr. Nancy Turner Banks contact info. And hopefully it'll show up. And she is either she has returned to the US or she is still in Mexico. I have two phone numbers here for her and two different phone numbers. So I'll have a chance to check that out a little bit later. Anybody have any other subjects, any topics? There was one more subject, one more topic from Africa that I did want to put into today's record. Let me quickly check and see if anybody is commenting. And I say thank you to each and every one of you for all you do for all of us. I am, because we are on LIB Radio, and we are undeniably a grateful global family. And on that note, I'm about ready to wrap it up for today. I want to thank you all for being a part of it. Your contributions to LIB Radio are very important. We do encourage you to become a supporter. If we have our biggest audience, and today we did have the biggest audience of the week, although a number of people probably wanted to have Junius and or Dwara with us. I do appreciate you being with us as well. We are on all week long, and today was kind of like what I do normally on LIB Radio all week long. When I go through, I will take a topic and pick it apart, go deep into it. As we did today with the male contraceptive, we did quite a bit of coverage on that. But I do encourage you to please, please, please buy my books, especially the books on health. You do want to take advantage of what I've been able to do. This is http / this is not, that's not right. http / Keidi, KEIDI .biz CRP 2012. That's how you get a hold of us. I encourage you to buy the books. You and I can have a conversation, a personal, very personal conversation. I've had a number of conversations with people. There was a brother, he stayed here as part of the Healthy Wealth Network, and he just left. And I asked him, how you feeling? How you doing? And he looked good. The brother looked really good. Clear skin, his weight was definitely in control. And he kind of hesitated. And I replied to him, it's that hesitation that I'm challenging. Because I don't want you or anyone else that I know to hesitate. When someone asks you, how are you doing? You should go off into your testimony. You should say, I am feeling great. I look good. I feel good. I'm healthy. I'm wealthy. I'm moving forward. I am doing great. But he hesitated. And then he went in to fill in the blanks. And typical Western male issues of hyperplasia, benign prostate hyperplasia, or worse. And when I talked to him about his nutrition wasn't bad, not bad at all. It was obviously much better than most men in America, because most males of African descent in America are overweight and or obese. Most males, most females, slightly even higher percentage. So this brother was doing good, but could be better. Now, I'm not going to go into my dealings with clients, but some of our people are literally dangling by a thread, and they waited too long. Waited too long. One brother waited until he had taken 8 bouts of chemotherapy before contacting me. 8 rounds of chemotherapy. No one can live through that. No one. It's devastating to your body. And with 8 rounds of chemotherapy, the doctors sent him to a hospice to die. I and his friend, probably his best friend, who rescued him from the hospice and is staying in her home, am doing the best we can to get this brother to just stretch out where you are right now by yourself. 2 weeks of time. You got to have that 2 weeks. And I talked to someone just yesterday, good friend, long-term friend. And she said to me, in essence, she said, I wish, so once she thanked me for the counseling I had given them before, when her then partner had a stroke. But she said she wished she had taken my advice closer to heart. Now, I'm not in a position to talk about her, but maybe what I will do one day this week is, if you want to speak about your health issues on the air, I'm going to show everybody what I do, how I do what I do with the functional medicine, identifying exactly what is happening within your body to tell you what the pathogenesis of your disorder is about. I know the body very, very well. I put in the work, and my work is very good on this. So on that note, I want to ask you all, please do better. Please do. Do better. So thank you for Africa One. It was human trafficking. Glad to know someone other than me who called it that. And you're right. It was human trafficking. Of course, here's the thing. We can change the name. We can not change the past until we are in control of the present and moving into the future. Because right now, human trafficking is still capturing African bodies and shipping them to other countries, other states. Human trafficking happening in the Arab countries. The Arab countries are engaging in human trafficking. And it's almost like being black or Negro or African American or colored or Moorish or Hebrew or whatever. You can change that name, but you're still in the same condition. I'm not saying that you, Queen Mother Kashiba, or my sister for African One are not doing anything. I would never, ever say that. But at the same time, we can't just change what we call it and change our fate. Changing our fate requires us, demands that you and I educate our children. It demands that we educate the elders. It demands that we raise funds strategically to be able to change our people's destiny. Queen Mother Kashiba, please, more topics. Don't go, Katie. There is one topic that I do have in my mind right now, so I'm gonna stick on with this a little bit, and that is, here is the topic: what about maternal mortality? How much should we prioritize the ending of a huge gap that affects our African mothers? Now, in the United States, in the US, it is twice for Black women maternal mortality, women dying during childbirth. It is twice that of others. But on the planet, I'm gonna ask this of my search engine: what is the lowest maternal mortality rate in the world versus the highest rates among the top 10 African countries for maternal mortality? This is very shocking. Get ready. You may not want to talk about this. The lowest maternal mortality rate in the world is one death per 100,000 live births recorded by Belarus. That's a former Soviet Union state, by Belarus. In contrast, the highest maternal mortality rates among the top 10 African countries are not specified in the provided results, but I can easily just find that. What are the highest mortality rates among the top 10 African countries? So I'm going to go ahead and hit the search on that, and I think it comes right back. Countries with extremely high mortality, infant mortality rates, and this is maternal mortality, not infant mortality, are South Sudan with 1,223 women dying, followed by Chad with 1,063 women dying, Nigeria 1,047 deaths per 100,000 births. Compared to 2017, the maternal mortality rate has increased in 17 countries and decreased in 30. So it gave us the lowest infant mortality rate In Belarus, one woman dies for every 100,000 live births. In Sudan, that is 1,223 women die. Is this a priority? Why? That's the question. I'm going to put that question up on YouTube as well. Because we have you involved. Maybe only one person talking to me, Stray Godzilla, on YouTube. And I know there are more people than that watching. Hey, let me double check and see how many people are watching. But when we talk about male contraceptive, female contraceptive, when we talk about Bill Gates, etc., and all of these schemers over there in Africa, we get excited. And we should. No doubt about that. But when I bring up this topic of maternal mortality, for which I have solutions, for which you and I, as part of the diaspora, could implement solutions, technology transfer can help alleviate this. We don't get excited. A lot of people just haven't even thought about it. Maternal mortality. But if we look at so many of the related subjects or related topics on this, we can see that we should be paying close attention. Is this a priority? I would like to think so, but I have tried once before to put it all out. And unfortunately, it's not been accepted. It hasn't been received. And as a consequence of that, one second. As a consequence of that, I don't see us paying attention. I don't see us trying any harder tomorrow to solve this than we did today. I wish it were better. And Queen Mother, that's how we'll wrap up for today. She says, hit the like button, everybody. And do hit the like button. It does add to our experience here. And we do appreciate that. So maybe this week I will, or maybe I won't bring this topic up today. For me, this is me personally. I do not think there is any higher priority of any other subject. Male contraceptive, will it work, won't it work? Bill Gates in Africa, what's he up to? Spreading GMOs. William Ruto, we could go all over the country. But we're going to have to solve this problem. We're going to have to solve this problem. Now, she says, what is the percentage in Belarus? Percentage-wise, it is 1 out of 100,000. 1,000. So that means it's 1,000th of 1%. In Belarus, it, and I didn't spell that right, capital B, it is 0.001% death. In Sudan, it is 1.223. Is that right? Out of 100,000. I have to add, it's more than 10%. 1,223 to 100,000. No, it's less than 10%. My brain is, let me calculate, use a calculator. 100,000, this is 1 actually divided by 100,000. 1 divided by 100,000 equals 0.00001. But that's way too high. In Belarus, that's in Belarus, 1 divided by 100,000. So in Belarus, it is 0.00001. In Sudan, it is 1,223 divided by 100,000. So in Sudan, it is 1.2%. What did I do? 0, 0, 0, 0. And in Sudan, it is 1.23%. That's it. And that's what we are up against. I remember, For Africa One writes, I remember when you tried to crowdfund for incubators, I think for Ethiopia, and the response was poor. I care very much. And we did try that crowdfund. We ended up going to Ethiopia and we spent the money because it was less than $700. We spent the money. We spent the money on books. And we gave away over $1,000 worth of books to the Ethiopians. I can't remember the exact figure, but it was well more than what we raised in the fundraiser. Because quite simply, you expect better performance from me than that. I did the best I could, but it was more than I could handle. We're going to do better. For Africa One, I do recall you do care. And so, on that note, there was one more story. Did I get that last story in? This story comes to us from Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa declares Manyame crash a national disaster. Says, quote, we must tame this bloody traffic jungle. And the story comes to us from the southern African nation of Zimbabwe. And the president was commenting on the fact that President Emerson Mnangagwa has declared the tragic accident that claimed 17 lives at Manyame Bridge on the Chitungwiza Highway a national disaster. calling for urgent and sweeping reforms to end what he described as a, quote, bloody traffic jungle, unquote, on the country's roads. In a statement, President Mnangagwa said he learned with horror and disbelief about the fatal crash involving a commuter omnibus and a haulage truck, which took place yesterday. The crash, which involved a truck and a commuter omnibus, painfully reminds us as a nation of the multiple hazards which continue to stalk our roads, many of which can easily be prevented through responsible driving and effective enforcement of traffic rules, he said. The president expressed frustration over continued road carnage, attributing the high fatality rate to both the reckless driving and lax law enforcement. Quote, we cannot continue to lose lives in this most horrendous way due to sheer recklessness and persistent gaps in law enforcement on our roads, he said. In a strong policy directive, Mnangagwa called for a total overhaul of the country's approach to traffic safety, warning that the modest returns on measures we have relied upon to date to restrain bad conduct by road users must now make way for new and more robust measures which deliver results. Time has now come to raise the stakes against guilty parties. The costs of bad behavior on our roads must simply outweigh whatever bizarre benefits that irresponsibles think they derive from reckless driving, he said. So it's a crisis. And we see this in a lot of developing countries, no doubt. And that crash is just horrible. If you see the picture of it, it's really, really nasty. So, to the best of our abilities, that is our Pan-African report here today on LB Radio. Let me copy, cut, and paste that last article so everyone has access to it. Where is it? Here it is. Zimbabwe, and it is here. All stories, allafricastories.com. And we are finished for today's report. And on that note, thank you for tuning in today to LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. And, ew, that was bad. What did I do? Here, let me do this one more time. Copy HTML. All copy. And that is about the Zimbabwe omnibus crash. There it is, the story. For those of you who are here in our Rumble family, it's a pleasure to have you with us. We're going to hopefully be joined by you again tomorrow as we continue with everything we do here on your favorite LIB Radio, LIB TV. And again, we're doing the best we can, the best that we can do to bring us all good information. So on that note, thank you for all you do for all of us. Can you tell somebody about the program for next week? You all did hit the like button, didn't you? After Queen Mother admonished us to please do hit the like button. If not, do it right now. And let's get this party started. Let's get ready to rumble. Let's go forward. You've been tuned into your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV, livingblack.com. Do check my brother out on Facebook. It's a good place for us to join and to build together, grow together, learn together, love one another, and do even better than we did yesterday, and do even better the next day and the next day and the next day on building up Africa to the point where Africa holds her head as high as any other country on this beautiful planet of ours. I do, you do, we do believe in our mother continent. Oh, yes, we do. You've been tuned into your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV. We are livinginblack.com. Tell your friends to tell their friends that we have our own now. And we're very, very proud of what we have, who we are, and what we do for each and every one of us. Peace and prosperity.